some political bullshit.
And this is Tim back with the fifth Ford. Hey, Shawn, we got podcast number 16 here.
Yeah, we're rolling right along, Timmy. It's good to see you. How you feeling?
Pretty good this morning, okay? I got up bright and early so we could bang this thing on out. Let's just jump right on into it, okay? The big news, I guess, the week, which was pretty nice to see, is a local boy, Zach Remillard, be brought up to the Chicago White Sox. You want to jump in on some of that?
Well, I think it's awesome, right? Anytime you have a local boy who can make it to the major leagues, it just brings pride and excitement through the whole capital region. I happen to know both of the boys, not really super well. I know their dad because my son is the same age, and I used to take my son up to All Star Academy up in Latham. Wonderful place to go and learn how to play baseball. Man, they just have some great coaches up there, and the boys would be up there with their father every single day. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a
that's
pure example that if you want to be great at something, you have to work hard. And both of his kids were fantastic baseball players, Division One, drafted, um, and to see him make it to the majors, to see Zach up there. I mean, what a first game! He has 3 hits. He ties the game. He wins the game. That stuff dreams are made of, and
yeah,
uh,
yes, that's true.
and, and
And
I'm really excited. I couldn't wait to text my son and say, "Remember when we were, little kids and we were at that All Stars and we went a lot, and they were there far more than we were." And my son turned out to be really good because of the coaching lessons and the time he spent up there. But they lived there, and their father gave them every opportunity. What a wonderful um, father he was to give them every opportunity to be successful, and he was lucky enough to be able to get up to all stars all the time. But yeah, what a great moment! Congratulations to Zach and his brother and his family. It's really exciting.
And if you recall, okay, when I had this travel team called the Cohoes Cubs, we had Will, and we also had Zach on the team, and they were pretty strong players. I mean, as soon as they walked on the ball field, they made our team so much stronger right off
Oh,
the bat, and that's from all of their training that they
they
were
were some of the
getting.
best around. They
You know,
still are. They'll always go down in history as two of the
yeah,
best kids to come out of the capital region for
yeah,
baseball. But
yeah,
yeah, I remember. I remember it well. It was just
yeah.
super awesome to watch kids that I watched play grow up, and he makes the major leagues. And I'm praying for him. I hope that he can have a long stint up there. He had a great first game. I think he's like
Yeah,
5 for 17, batting almost 300. So way to go, Zach. Keep going. You got a whole capital region cheering you on, baby.
that's
It's
right.
great stuff.
That's right. It's kind of nice to be able to say that, for as many years that I've been doing the baseball, to finally see a kid that actually had been on one of my teams actually get it and make it into the major leagues.
Yeah, well, it
That
doesn't
was a
happen by
big
accident.
thrill,
It is a
it
thrill.
doesn't. And it doesn't. So, good luck to you, Zach, and the family. It's a very proud moment for the capital region as
Yeah,
a whole, I would say.
sure is, man. I'm
Yeah.
excited, and I try to watch him at every game that he plays. I try to get onto the
Jump in.
NBL and pay to watch them play. That's how
Yeah.
excited I was. I ain't
Yeah.
watched the White Sox game my whole life unless they were playing against the Yankees. Now I can't wait to go pay to watch it. So, hey, way to go! Congratulations, and we're proud of you, man, and your brother as well. And we're wishing you the best. So get out there and kick some butt.
Yep.
And some other good news, Rock the Block tonight, Rock the Block again. And I got to tell you, I went down last Thursday. It was mobbed. It's exciting to see.
Yep.
The tradition is continuing, right? Great concert. And then afterwards, the city was packed and the restaurants and bars. I hope they get down off of Ransom Street and go see some other places, the Tugboat and, you know, um, Durant's down there in the island. There's a lot of great places. Explore the city of Cohoes. That was some of the videos we made exploring Cohoes.
Yeah,
Um,
and tonight it's Guns N' Roses tribute band, I believe, right?
no,
Ten.
the guy who's playing tonight was part of Guns N' Roses. He
Oh, he
he was
was. See,
actually he was
actually remember.
actually
Oh,
in the
okay.
band. So
Oh,
that
okay.
should be a packed night. And I was able to visit Smith's a couple times. It's packed
Yep,
down there, and I even seen
that's
the
good.
bars at Table 41 and the taco place. They were all doing well, and the bars next door, and it was just great to see. And I think that's the reason I started it, because I believed that it was the engine that would keep funneling people to the downtown so they could survive. You can't survive on just 16,000 people, right? You need people who come
Yeah,
on a
you got to bring
constant
them in.
basis. You need a pipeline. So I'm excited. I'm going to go down tonight and catch the show and visit the city. So, there's a lot of good stuff going on. In the summertime, it's a great time of the year, right? And a lot of stuff happens. People can't wait to get out and have some drinks and see their friends. Rock the Block brings people together that haven't seen each other in years, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
true.
it's a great place. So look forward to that tonight. So out and about, I should say. Stop down to the Rock the Block, come visit Cohoes, spend some money in our establishments, and help keep them operating.
Look at also going on here. I guess it's every third Friday. A group of businesses. It's a collaborative. They're looking to do essentially like block parties, is what they're calling it. They have a website. It's called the Spindle City Collaborative. About a dozen businesses there, and I know that the CLDC was approached because they want to establish a 501c3 so that they can essentially do this on their own without really having the city sponsor, the CLDC sponsor. The businesses themselves want to do it on their own. Of course, there are always hoops you have to jump through with permits and processing. Like I tried to post the fact that it, from what I could read on the minutes of the CLDC website, it was looking at more or less trying to rebrand Eaton Street to something like Spindle City Summers. But perhaps I got the language of that wrong, but it's essentially really the same concept. Okay, you got a bunch of businesses there. They're trying to do it on their own, and I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. Listen, anytime you have events that draw people to the city and help the businesses and get them looking around Cohoes
Yeah,
and realizing that it's a pretty good city. I mean, it's fallen a little bit. It's not as clean. It's a little dirty. I wish they'd clean up Ransom Street. I wish they'd cut down the weeds all the way down. I wish they'd clear out the tree beds and fix the hydrant markers that are all bent, because every little thing that's out of place just kind of brings the value of the city down. So I think they got some work. But I love the fact that businesses are going to collaborate themselves, right? Because government
yeah,
screws up more than it ever fixes, right?
yeah,
Um,
that's
Becoming a
true.
501c3, the city can't help you do that. You have to do that through, there's a process. You got to
Well,
file the papers. You got to,
IRS.
right. There's
You
a whole
get that
bunch of
through the
stuff.
IRS.
Right. And once they're a 501c3, a downtown business district, the city should work with them and help them to have these events. There's a process. You have to have permits. You got to close down the streets. You got to make sure that you're not, interfering with other businesses that are not in the entertainment venue, right? Like dentists and law firms or
Yeah.
whatever. But if you do it right, it's a good thing for the city. So you'll have Eat in the Streets or whatever they rebrand themselves as. You'll have the Rock the Block, and hopefully the city will have some more events, because the more things happening, the more relevant you are, the better your city becomes. You just got to make sure that the city uses its resources. Cops got to be down, walking the streets so people feel safe. You got to get the DPW to clean up the streets down there. You got to keep the flowers watered. There's a lot that the city has to do, but that's their job. Their job is to promote the community and assist the businesses, not run them, but assist them any way they can. So
Now,
it's exciting to see
it,
the city moving in that direction.
hey, yeah, and did we? I do recall, we used to have a chamber of commerce, something along that lines.
Yeah, when I was in office, we had a pretty robust LDC, IDA,
Yeah,
and we worked with the businesses. We would have meetings with businesses. We would ensure them that we would do our part, and we were always looking to create a downtown business district, and we were looking at all the ways to do it so that it didn't become something that was out of control, because other cities have done it
right.
and it's failed miserably and it's caused all kinds of conflict, and we didn't want that. So we were moving in that slow but steady pace, And unfortunately, I'm not there no more, so I don't know where they went from there. But having a downtown business district to promote the downtown businesses, and look at it, shouldn't just be downtown businesses. The other businesses in the other parts of the city should get involved as well, because
Yeah.
when they collaborate, they can say, okay, we have Eat in the Streets or whatever we name it, but then we can have the Island Festival. We can have the Pond Rodeo where we bring in bands down there and a bunch of like food carts. There's so many ideas.
Yeah.
You can't be lazy. The city is kind of lazy in that sense, and you gotta stay engaged. It's being the mayor of the city is 24/7, 7 days a week, and around the clock, and you never got a opportunity to stop thinking. You always have to keep. There's not an opportunity to just take a break and say, well, it will happen itself. So let's hope it keeps going. I'm excited about what I see for the summertime. We've shared the many concerns we have about the city, the crime we
Yep.
just talked about, the bad things with bail reform and how it's affecting the city, and that the city, I think, needs to step up a little more and say, I don't really care what the rules are because these rules are destroying us. We're going to stand up for our own city. We're going to fight, 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 get our city back on. And if anything, we'll expose the people who continue to pass laws that are bad. But you can't sit idle. I got a phone call last night. And I get phone calls like you, emails, and I'll share
Yeah.
some
All
of
the
them, because what I
time.
want to do, Timmy, is start a little thing that at the end of our show we can read off some of the emails or messages that we get from residents so that the city can hear them, and maybe they'll engage. But last night, phone call, 12 kids down at the Canal Square Park throwing rocks against the building, throwing rocks at the speakers. The girl, went out there and said something. They came after her, screaming and yelling. I know the cops were called. I think the cops showed up, maybe took a couple kids away. But, you know, you have to be proactive, right?
Yeah. I was
I still,
coming home about 8 o'clock last night, and I had four police cars screaming up North Mohawk Street to the intersection of School Street and North Mohawk. Four police cars, okay, and it looked like there might have been some kind of domestic dispute. But four cars to respond to one call.
Well, hey Timmy, there's only one cop in each car, man. My son was a
Oh, is that
police
true?
officer. Well, the reality
Okay.
is, I wouldn't want to be a police officer today, right? You have
Oh
politicians who are
yeah, it's
passing
tough.
laws that empower and embolden the criminals, and then if a police officer does something the wrong way, they want to lock him up and take away his livelihood. It's a shitty job when you have politicians that I call morons that spend more time trying to figure out how to screw shit up, how to hurt the
Yeah,
police
the
than
bail
to
reform we
helping
talked
them.
about.
Yes, it's not just bail reform; it's the turn in the blind eye. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, how can you even see one event that shows a bunch of kids and violence, shooting each other, beating up old ladies, smacking you over the head with a baseball bat, stabbing you in the neck, and not say we have made a mistake?
As a
And it's
society.
okay, because look, at politics is about mistakes, right? You try to make things better, you review the policies as they move along, and if they're not working, you either you fix them or you get rid of them. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with saying we couldn't make this work the way we thought and we have to change it. But these bastards stand boldly and they look at you and they just lie to your face. And that's
They
what's
have
happening. I'm
right. They
calling
have.
out John McDonald, and I call out Neil Breslin, and I call out Danny McCoy, and I call out Kathy Sheen, and I call out all these power brokers in our local government and state government to have some kahunas and say this doesn't work. Stop
Yeah.
worrying about all of this bullshit. It is clear to me, and I've been in politics a long time, it is clear to me that the only thing that's being done right now is trying to figure out how to create another voting pipeline for themselves. And it's not the criminals that are going to go vote. They understand that. It's the millions of dollars that are spent by organizations that get rich off crime, bail reform, poor people, drug addicts. It's those people who they're trying to please to get their vote so they stay in power. Oh, thank you for passing a law that gives criminals all these rights, because now we get to defend criminals and their rights, and we fight for human rights, and we're fighting for equity, and we're fighting for all this bullshit, and it is bullshit. And the good people are the ones who are getting the short end of the stick. And Cohoes is no different. Young kids are emboldened to be violent, and I see it every day. There was a fight at Stewart's. A kid was sitting in his car. They ran into him, went into his car and started beating him up. I
Wow.
see these gangs of kids when I'm driving down the street that don't want to get out of my way and they won't let me
Yeah.
by. I got to roll down the window and say something nice. But somebody comes over and punches me in the head. I'm taking out at least 10 of them. I might get the shit kicked out of me. I'm 56 years old, but I'm not going to be bullied by a bunch of kids. And the cops can't take the freaking approach. And I'm not blaming the police officers that, oh, there's nothing we can do. That's bullshit.
Well, they
If
do
you
say
have
that a
to
lot.
if you have to arrest them every single day and bring them home to their parents, then do it. If you have to bring them in front of the judge and he lets them go 7 times a day, keep doing it. And then when somebody says, why are these kids doing these things? Why are these people emboldened? Why do we have crazy people running around the streets? Just say, because New York State bail reform did it. I keep arresting them. I keep doing my part. I keep making sure that we're safe. Look at them when it's time to vote. But you know what? They ain't going to do that because they're all lovey dovey and they're all one group of people. The more you tell the truth and the more you fight the current, the more they come down on your head and want to kill you. I've been there. I know it. I seen it. I did it, and I wouldn't
You
change
lived
it.
it. Yeah, you lived it. So look at I want to jump into we got 5 days, Sean, before the elections here, the primaries here, and I haven't seen anything from Adam Biggs in the Fifth Ward mailings or whatever, but I did get one from Tom Dion. Okay, and I sent you a copy of it, and you got a chance to take a read on it. You want to
Yeah,
jump
look,
on to
I'm going to
some of
try to
that?
put it up on the screen, Timmy. One thing I noticed is that when I put it up, it does cut us off, but
It
you know,
blocks us, but that's okay.
it puts it in the middle of the thing. But there's Tommy's flyer. Now, I told you that every flyer that we can see, we want to discuss, right?
Yeah, all of
And
them. Yeah,
it's funny because we discussed Mr. Alicio's flyer, and I made it very clear, as you did, that as a person, I really like the guy. I seen him at
yeah.
Stewart's. I said hi to him. I love his wife. I think they're great people. I have no bad feelings against them. I really don't.
Personally,
I'd
personally,
like to be
nothing.
their friend, but just because I call out some things that I see and try to be factual,
Yeah,
we've been attacked by a group of people that are really supportive of him.
yeah.
And my response to those people who tried to degrade me or whatever is that you don't know me. I'm trying to give you facts. You can decipher from them facts what you like, and just because you don't agree with them, don't mean they're wrong. And I'll use this Claudia girl. I think that was her name, right?
Claudia Calendar.
Right. She
Yeah,
she
and
really
Kimberly Fox down there.
yeah, well, Kimberly Fox, she's been doing it forever, and
Yeah,
but I don't know this Claudia, and for her to try to shame me because I disagree, but her facts are wrong, Timmy.
yeah.
Her
We
facts are not
discussed that.
correct, and I'll give you an example. Right, we had the redistricting process, and I really am disappointed that the redistricting process put a piece of the island up into the third ward. Now, I've been around long enough to know why it was done. It had nothing to do with population on the island, and it had to do with everything that has caused the redistricting process to be in federal court for as long as I can remember. Because they gerrymander the lines and keep people out of office that they don't want to be in office where they think they have a good shot of winning. So they move the lines and put them somewhere else. And that's the nature of politics. I get it. But Justin said he wouldn't vote for it, and he did. But then you have this Claudia woman attacking us, saying that we're not factual, that it was a state law. Well, wrong. There's no
Wrong.
such thing as a state law that tells the city of Cohoes where they have to move their lines. And
Not at
then
all.
she has this comment that says that Justin went to the state to put the pond back into the island district.
Six four.
There's
Six
no
four.
state. The state has
Yeah,
nothing to do with it. So factually, she's completely wrong. The lines are decided by local government. Okay,
which is
there
true.
should and the local government should be taking their well, some of the ideas, at least hear the people. They should have gone around every part of the city, had public meetings, learned why the island and the hill and the city are different in many different ways. What's the wants and needs of the people living in those districts? And you try to make sure that the lines are set so the representatives are a connection of that community, that parts of the community stay within the district where the people who use it or rely on it the most have it. You don't just go in and chop up lines for bullshit that is, oh, the population grew. Well, it grew up in the other wards too, right? It grew
Yeah,
all
well,
over the city.
what they did is they did a carve out around the pond, so that Bridge Avenue didn't go straight to the Hudson Shores apartments. Okay, so they would not put part of the pond into the third ward.
Yeah, yeah.
so,
And my response to this Claudia woman, I don't dislike this Claudia woman. I don't even know
no,
her. I
don't know
and
you
I have
know
a
her.
great respect for her because she did speak out, but I think she was factually wrong. And you know what?
She is wrong.
When you really care about a candidate for whatever the reason is, there's a million reasons
Yeah,
why you love a candidate. You
yeah.
defend them, and I think it's great. I think it's great when people defend them, but don't defend them by attacking other people who point out the facts. I take great pride on this show to make sure that everything that I talk about, I've researched and researched. Nobody can
And
tell me about redistricting. You know why, Timmy? Because I was the chairman of the redistricting for the county. And we did
yeah,
everything that I thought was right. And you know what happened? We got sued in federal court. And
and
I
you know
followed,
too, Shawn, right? And Shawn, too, from your experience with me, I go out of my way to research things as well. I try to get the
absolutely.
most truthful information, as accurate as we know at the time, especially when we come and do these podcasts. Okay,
Yeah.
we're not
And
about deceiving people.
let me go back to we got sued in federal court.
Yeah.
And the funny part is, if this was a bigger city that had more people engaged in the political process,
Hmm.
Cohoes would have got sued because they were the worst
That's
lines
true.
that I've ever seen, and
That's
there was
true. I
no
agree.
process. And they should be embarrassed that they at least they should be embarrassed that they excluded the people from the process because it's a people's process because it's about their representation, right? So to make a
Yeah.
long story short, I don't know Claudia. I have no hard, feelings against her. I think it's great that she supports her candidate, but to be clear, there is no such thing as a state law that requires the city to draw lines in any way, shape, or form. Justin didn't go to the state to get the pond put back in. He went to the mayor and said, "I'm getting beat up over the pond," and they just moved the line a little bit, and then he can go back and say, "Hey, I got the pond back in." It's all
That's what they
smoke and
get.
mirrors. And
Yeah,
and,
that's
and
what
anybody who
happened.
thinks right, look, I know redistricting like the back of my hand, and I assure you that she is mistaken with the facts. Defend your candidate and defend him because of the things you like about him. Don't defend him by attacking people who call out the things that they don't like about him. I never
Yes.
said for one second whether he was a great person to represent or not. I just said I personally don't like the politics that he played, the ambulance, the
Yeah.
cost of it, the redistricting. So if Claudia, if you listen, I have no disrespect for you, even though you took a shot at me and called me some kind of name. I understand that you're fighting for your candidate, and I'll stand on the facts that we put
Yeah.
out.
She
Now,
said you were a disgraced person,
yeah, I'm
is
a
what she said.
disgrace. I mean, she
You
doesn't
know,
even know me. I've done more for
I
this city in a day than she'll do in her whole time
yeah,
living here. But
yeah.
but that
Well,
doesn't matter. People are gonna have their own opinion of me
well,
and you,
right.
and
Yeah,
and
and
I'll respect her
right.
opinion.
I'm a deplorable.
I'll,
Okay,
I'll
so
respect her opinion, but factually, she's incompetent with the redistricting process and how it really took
her,
place.
yeah,
And
her
so
information is wrong. Okay,
yeah. So let me throw
okay.
up Tommy's.
Yeah,
Throw Tommy back up here. I'm not
yeah.
going to
Bring
keep it
that
because I
on
had
up.
it up, but look, at Tommy's got a lot of great points. Okay, I
He
think
does.
Tommy is a great guy, and I think his family is incredibly cohoes. Right, they're
Yeah,
incredibly in love with the city. They have done a great service. They're a great family. Mrs. Dion, I always laugh because I think she still likes me, even though she was my detention teacher, because that's where I found myself quite often. Um, I think Tommy's a stand up guy, but just like the rest of the people who run for office, there's a lot of like vigor there. They're going to change a lot of things. And the reality is, the council doesn't have a lot of the authority to change a lot of things. But in his flyer, he talked about things that we've talked about: better
yeah,
communication, communicating with the community, having the courage to ask questions about something that, even though you may not be able to change the outcome, you can voice your concern for the people you represent, the firehouse being one of them. He made it very clear that he wants to see it open. I put a little message out there on his Facebook today, or somebody, Paul Giller's Facebook.
yeah,
You can't just look at a firehouse and think that's the whole issue, because the firehouse has been closed on and off for 15 years. John McDonald started it when he cut the staffing, and and to tell you the truth, Timmy, we are a better city and a safer city when we have more firefighters show up to a fire who can get a bunch of tasks that need to be done quicker than if two guys show up 2 minutes faster, but can't get the task done,
Yeah,
right?
because you only got two guys. You got
Right, you
four
have
set of
seven
hands.
jobs that need to be done with two guys. So actually, you may show up quicker, but the time that it takes to put water on the fire or do the other tasks to try to
Takes
save property
longer.
or lives
So
takes a lot longer.
yeah,
So if I show up with four guys and I can get the fire on in 3.5 minutes, or I show up faster with two guys, but it takes 9 minutes, what's better? Four guys. And so the Hill Station may have a value. But listen, if you go to New York City, the stations are further away in New York City than they are in Cohoes, right? We're 4 square miles and we have three
yeah.
firehouses. And do I believe it should be open? Yeah, because it's I say it's a luxury to have more, right? But if it was
And
closed and
right, they're
the
down to
ambulance was
four guys. They're
right,
down to five now, and it's they widely believe that as soon as this election is over, they're going to be dropped down to four.
and if I was advising Tommy, which I'm not, but I'll share my concerns with him.
Yep,
Fight for more guys a day than worrying about the firehouse being open, because the response times between the hill and the city have to include the response time from getting the job set up and the water put on the fire. It's not as simple. Now, I was just looking over a report that I had back when I was in the fire department and I was part of the union, and we were looking to uh, organizations that and consultants that deal with these things. I'm going to tell you, they are complicated. They're mathematical equations. There's 1,000 things that go into it, from the size of a fire to the wind to road construction. These are professionals with 30 years of experience in consulting and where firehouses have to be, how many apparatus, how many manning.
yep.
And that's why I said that the current, you know, whatever they're calling it, EMS commission, why made
It's
up
a
of people,
EMS task
yeah,
force.
why made up of people that I have high respect for, and that within their own expertise would bring great value to the city for a lot of things, don't have the experience and have any idea of what really goes into the decisions on ambulance responses and emergency care and all those things. And when Otto Madison, who I think is, I worked for Otto, and I worked with Otto, and then he worked for me. We all spent a lot of time together. Um, he submitted an application. He's probably the most qualified guy, John Large, and him in the city.
It
He
gave the
submitted an
resume to both
application to
the
Billy
Bigs
McCarthy
and Bigs.
and Biggs, neither one of which have any experience in fire and EMS. Billy McCarthy's a DPW guy, and Adam's a principal. So when
Yeah,
you have a
yeah,
chance to have a guy that has so much experience and you don't even look at his application, it goes to show you that it is exactly what I told you it was when they started it. A day
and
late, a dollar short, dog and
yeah,
pony show. And
right,
Taylor's
and
already said, what did he say? I
he
don't
said
care.
that the
I've already made a
decision is final.
decision.
Well, that decision is basically a 1 year contract decision anyway. But we'll see what happens down the road.
Yeah,
But look
yeah.
at
So
as far as Otto, just recently he just got approved to be on some New York State faculty for his expertise on EMS.
yeah,
But he
John
can't even
Large.
but he can't even get on a simple task force about all about EMS in the city of Cohoes
I
by
don't.
two guys who have no idea what this whole thing's about.
Yeah, and
You
John
know what
Large
it
as
is?
well. John Large
And
lives down the island. He's been on
yeah,
Mohawk Ambulance longer than I was a firefighter. The guy's got a wealth of knowledge. I mean, it
yeah,
just goes to
and
show you that it's not about solving problems. It's about a facade of how you
politics,
make it look like
right?
it's politics.
It's a
Right.
politics. It's politics, and these politics are costing us 88 grand a month,
Yeah. Well,
and it's not sustainable. So
it's not
it's gonna
sustainable.
crash. I'm
And
just gonna
let's talk
wait back
about
and
why
watch
it's
it
not
crash,
sustainable, because I
and
think
then
there's
yeah, you'll see how unsustainable it is when we get to November when they start looking at the budget.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, right? So to think you could raise taxes 14%, you need approval from the state of New York, and John McDonnell's not going to allow the current administration
Not
to
gonna
raise
happen.
taxes, and he's going to vote for it. Believe me, he's going to say find other ways before you come to me to raise taxes, because they are now
Yeah,
part of raising the taxes because there's a 2% property tax cap. Tommy
yeah.
Dion said it in
In his
his
flyer.
his flyer,
Right here, yeah.
quite well. There's
Yeah.
no 14 or 50% tax increases coming for me. But if you don't have tax increases, then you have to cut services. There's only two things you can do: generate
Yes.
revenue, which is what I did, brought in $50 million of revenue by new development, who pays new taxes, pilots, fees, fines, all the different things they got to pay to get into the city. Um, or you cut taxes, or you raise taxes, and or you cut services.
Hmm.
So we cut taxes in the city, which was the dumbest thing you could do. And the example of why it's dumb is because the next day you have $1 million a year new bill. You're going to
Yeah,
raise
ambulance.
taxes at least the 2% because you don't have the funds to pay it. You're going to have to cut services because you don't have the money to pay them all. And so let's go to some of the things that they're doing now that I think is just egregious. Now, um, they don't have money. So what do you got to do? You got to find money. How do you find money? You have code enforcement drive around the city, and if the garbage can covers up this much, they give you a ticket,
For a
and they're
hundred
handing out
dollars.
tickets like it's going out of style, and it's
Yeah,
wrong. It's
yeah,
wrong. People should get a notice. Look, we're making some changes for two reasons. One, we want to have a cleaner city, and garbage that's flying out of garbage cans is unacceptable. So we're going to enforce these policies and new fees and fines. So please take all the necessary steps to help keep your city clean. That's the first reason and way that you do it. And then the second way is you have a public meeting as the council and explain why it's being done, and make sure that your charter or your code reflects what you're doing, so you can do it and do it right and correct, and put the fees in there and the fines and everything that will happen if you don't follow these processes. But no, the city just basically said we're going to just hand out tickets, and that is a sure sign that they're trying to raise revenue, Timmy,
yeah.
and they're raising it on the backs of fees and fines, which is no different than a tax.
Well, look at in Tom Dion's flyer here. I want to touch on something he said regarding improved dialogue, and here's where he's correct. He said he reached out to Adam Biggs, for over a month, just trying to reach out and to find out more information about the EMS task force he formed. Right. Tom goes on to say, well, this all started when he, announced his campaign, but I don't know how true that would be, but I would tell you it was me who went to the council meeting and called out Adam Biggs during the council meeting as the council chair for this public safety commission. And asked him, "What are you doing?" And since I did that, suddenly Adam decides, well, I better do something about it. They throw a resolution to create this task force, which was unanimously approved. And look at in here, what he's complaining about is what I've been complaining about for the last 2 years with Adam. Adam, you don't answer your emails. Now, we did discover that my emails were going into a spam filter, a junk folder, caused by the city. How that happened, I don't know. It got resolved. He's now
I know how it
answering.
happened. They put your
Yeah,
name in it. Timmy
yeah,
Thibodeau, send it to the dump.
probably true. But anyway, that's what happens because I put tracking software into my emails. The reason why I do this, Shawn, is because like our conversation right now, there's no proof of what we say and do. But when you put it in writing, it gives me proof of what is said and what is done. And this is why I can foil that. I have copies of what I'm saying and what I'm doing. And I don't believe that you just go by word of mouth because I've been burned too many times by people say, "Well, that's not quite how I said it," or what. It's not. That doesn't happen to me. Okay, I get it in writing. And this is why I communicate in writing. If they try to pull any crap on me, such as I didn't, it's not going to work. It's in writing with me. So anyway, moving on this thing. Okay, Tom's trying to work out the problem with the Fifth Ward firehouse, as you know. But I understand there's doing some renovations in there.
Well, Tim, you just heard me for 5 minutes talk about
Yeah,
fire service, and
sure.
everybody is like, everybody's looking at the firehouse like that's the crises. But the firehouse has been closed 80% of the time for
Yeah,
15 years.
yeah, it
And I
has
try to
been.
explain to people, and look at, I was a fireman 27 years, and I wasn't just putting out fires, right? I spent half of my life in the unions and involved in all of the logistics and all of the other things that came along with staffing levels and response times, and so I like to think I'm at least an authority in somewhat. And what I try to say to people is that when you look at a problem, you can't just look at the thing that's in front of your face and think that's the complete issue,
Yeah, yeah, I
right?
do
Because
agree with
it's
that.
not.
No.
It's not. If there was a fully staffed ambulance on the hill station all the time, I think that's great. Because truthfully, the number one call on the hill is EMS. Secondly, the fire load on the hill is a lot less than it is in the downtown, right? I don't want to say this like incorrectly and have people go, bullshit, that's crazy. But, if there's a fire on the hill, on McElwain or on McDonald Drive, I'll use, or one of
Yeah,
those beautiful areas up there, the
yeah.
houses are spread apart, right?
Right. Well, remember
There's
they
a
had
one
a
street,
fire down on Mohawk Street. They just had one on Congress Street. In fact, it was my grandmother's house
right? But
that is
those
that
type of
big.
houses have a
They're
fire load. They're all
right.
connected, and you
They
lose
are.
blocks at a time. Look at the huge fires we have
And we
in
had
the
four
downtown
guys
area.
go down there, and they snuffed that thing out pretty good with minimal to no damage to the house. Is right
Yeah,
2 feet
because four
away.
guys show up, they get water on it quicker, they get the job done. I
Yeah.
guess the moral of the story is that, if you're looking at an issue, you got to understand that, you got to scratch more than the surface. And the issue for the city, and if, again, is that firehouse, if it had a full time ambulance up there, I think that's outstanding because at least it's open and they have a place to staff the ambulance that can respond very quickly throughout the city, right? You need to have firefighters. Firefighters put out fires, not firehouses, not fire trucks, firefighters. And if you don't have enough firefighters to respond to your call, you might as well just say that I don't have a fire department, right? You can't show up with your baseball team with seven guys and think you're going to beat the team that has nine. There's always going to be a hole. And for whatever reason, whenever there's a hole, the baseball finds it. Well, fire does the
Right.
same thing. When there's not enough people to put it out, it's just spreading so fast that it gets out of control, and four guys can never put out a fire. Six guys can't do it. But we are limited to the amount of people we have, the staff that we have, the affordability of the fire department. And and so you have to look at the picture in the big aspect, not the picture in the little aspect. And that aspect that they're looking at is a firehouse. My aspect is I'd rather see two firemen be put down at Central to put four on the rig at all times because they're going to save your life and they're going to save your property better than two. And I believe that. And I've debated it with some firefighters in the union because they want to keep that hill station because they thought that's how they keep the extra men. I say don't worry about the fire station. Let Tommy fight for extra men. Don't let him go down to four. That's
No.
ridiculous.
No. They
Keep them at
suspect that.
six,
Yeah.
four, even on the island. When I say leave two, because I know you're never going to get more than that. You're never going to have,
Yeah.
but at the very least, if you have mutual aid and you have a problem on the island, Lansingburg is pretty darn close.
Yes.
Okay. And if you look at the firehouses in Troy, and Troy has a lot more fires than we have, they certainly ain't just there's a distance between them, right?
They're a hell of a
There's a
lot bigger than 4.4 miles.
Yeah, there's a distance between them, and they're a great fire department, and they do a
Yeah.
great job. So look at the picture as a whole, Tommy. Don't just look at a firehouse. Firehouses don't do anything but allow a truck to sit there. And if you don't have the men to do the job, then you have a problem. So I would tell you to look at manning, look at having enough firefighters to do the job. Make sure that when the truck rolls up, there's enough guys on it to do it. I've rolled up the fires, Timmy, with two guys. And you know what we do? We wait for the other guys to get there.
Wow.
And under the 2+2 OSHA regulations, two guys can't go into a burning building that doesn't have any type of life safety issue until there's two guys fully geared up, standing there waiting for them in case they get trapped in the fire. So you have to wait for two more guys to show up anyway.
Yes.
So while all this stuff is being talked about, what's not being clearly relayed is that showing up for a fight with a fire with two guys is like going to fight an army of 20 with two guys. Your
Hmm.
chances are slim to none. And so,
Yeah.
for the firefighter safety, for the city safety, for better services, Tommy, look at the firefighters manning because there lies the issue.
Yeah, and he brings up one good point here where he's talking about improving communications. Basically, the transparency of the council meetings and, on big decisions. Now he's talking big decisions. What has happened, really, without beating up on this ambulance thing again, is that a contract gets thrown in front of these guys, okay, with an hour and 15 minutes notice. In Tom's letter, he was talking about better communications on big issues. Now we're talking big issues, okay? Something like the ambulance was a big issue. And what happened is some of the council members were getting, notices to vote on big things like $1 million contract deals or whatever with only an hour and 15-minute notice. And
Yeah,
you need a little more time than that.
yeah, well, here's what I think. I think on the surface it looks like they're getting an hour's time, and they may be able to tell you that. But the reality is that all of these contracts, the board of managers are going through them, and Billy McCarthy is the president of the union, or he of the union. He's the president of the
Council.
council, and he's on those media on that board. He's on the board of managers, and he's not there for any other reason than he is the guy who's the voice for the council, so he knows everything that goes on. He should be meeting with his council and saying, "Hey, we had a board of managers meeting. You don't have to wait to a city council meeting to gather as a group and talk about what's coming forth."
He
Now,
doesn't tell them.
maybe they just got the paper an hour before, but I bet you Billy McCarthy knew days before.
Well,
Now,
he knew,
if
but they're saying he doesn't tell them.
well, that's a different part than saying that they're
Yeah,
not getting the stuff in a
right.
timely manner, right?
That's what they're saying.
And so you can take the position that, hey, Mr. McCarthy, you're the president of the union. If you're not going to give us at least 3 days to review these things and talk about what's going on even in advance, we're not going to vote for it. Period.
Yeah.
Now, if you can't listen, I was a union negotiator. I negotiate. I was sometimes doing 20 contracts at a time in 1 week. You don't need,
Well,
you can read a contract of 100 pages in a couple days. You're probably doing one night if you get it and you're
yeah.
engaged, right? So three
Hmm.
days before the meeting is plenty of time to get the stuff, read it, ask your questions, try to get some answers. And if you're not satisfied, you can always ask to table it or say you can't support it
Yeah.
until you know more. But I don't want people to think you need a month to read a contract.
No, no, no.
A
I'm saying
couple
the same
days is
thing.
plenty. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing. They throw the one big item in front of you. You need time to consume it. Think about the questions. Look at what you think you need to be able to check with some of your constituents, get their ideas on what they think too. When Roger Sakuchi ran in the Fifth Ward, he said, "You know what I'm going to do before I vote on anything? I'm going to poll some of my residents there and get about 20 people, see what they think." He never did it.
Well,
Okay,
I also
so
think I really think that's stupid if you want to know the truth.
Not me. I don't think so. I'd
Well,
like to know what's going on.
I think it's really stupid because if 10 Timmy Thibodeau's are going to sway the guy because the other people are not engaged and don't have time to take a poll, then I think then the representation is not being done by the guy that you elected. Now, I think he could, put out flyers and have a website and put stuff up and have better communication, but I don't think you take a poll of people. People don't know the
It's a
issues the
verb.
way.
It's like a verbal poll, not a.
I think it's stupid. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. I think people need to be engaged. I think they elect you because they think you're going to do the right thing. I think if it's major issues, then you have to communicate, have a website, let people come on and read it. I'm not saying you don't listen to people's views. You represent those people. But having some kind of poll or something where it's only a small number of
Well,
people
I'm
that are
not
going
going
to
to
get,
be denied any input, and let's put it that way.
well, yeah, you shouldn't be denied input, but
That's what
but
I
you
want.
shouldn't take a poll and have 10 people decide for the whole
No, no,
community what.
it's probably a bad choice of words. What I'm saying is the people should be able to be able to be able to engage something like that in
Well,
some way.
the people have to be engaged on their own, Timmy,
Just right,
and
just
and and
because
that's why.
I vote to elect something doesn't mean he speaks 100% for me all the time. What he says goes, and my opinion doesn't mean anything. I
Well, I'm
have an
not saying your
opinion just
opinion
like
doesn't
his.
mean anything. I'm not saying that, but you have a right. If the city was doing what they're supposed to, and they're not. But when I was in office, we built a whole website to make sure that every single thing that we were talking about, voting on, the backups of information that we got was all posted on the website.
And it
Um,
was.
well in advance, so you, as a
Yeah, it
resident
was.
who wanted to be engaged, could go on there and read everything and then ask questions, right?
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I'm not.
all that's got shut down after you
Well,
you were out
shame
of
on the
office.
city. That's why I'm
Right.
saying
It's
that's
very
the way.
difficult to get information.
But that's the way you communicate with the people by putting
Yeah,
out the information and saying to them, like I did, here's all the information. Go there, read it, Come to
Yeah,
the meeting,
and it
share
was
your
there.
concerns. Right. I love when people share their concerns
Yeah, yeah.
because sometimes, go
And
ahead.
that's how I glean information. Okay, go on to the city website, see what's going on. I go on the CLDC website. Go on the city. I look at all the agendas, the meetings, everything that's going on, so
The,
I can see what's going on. But you take this current administration, go to look at the public safety. No meetings since 2021. Okay, until I call them out. And you can look at the board of managers. The last thing posted August of last year.
Well, the board of managers and all of those meetings that are done by the council and things that are getting vote on it, the fact that they don't put them on the website just shows they're lazy, they don't care, and they don't want you to know what's going on. We spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to make sure that we had the ability to put all that stuff up. And if you go back to when I was there, you should find everything, including every
It's
piece of
there.
paper that we got from anybody who wanted to do something or do business or ask for something. It was all in the agenda, and it was all there for people to see. And
All you have to do is go back a few years and you could say it.
I used to field emails, hundreds of emails until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Right, I was always
Yeah,
responding to people. If you give them the opportunity to share their concern, they just want to hear what you're doing in layman's terms. And sometimes they're like, okay. Sometimes they're like, we don't like that. At the end of the day, you vote for somebody who's going to make the decision, and you're not always going to agree with it, right? But if they communicate with you. Now, one of the things I thought
that's
I
the
read,
main thing.
right?
It's the
One,
main thing.
but I just don't like these polls and all this kind of crap because I think it's just a small snapshot of people who are really engaged or politic junkies that engage in that stuff, while the everyday citizens trying to live their life, and therefore, if you start basing your decisions on that, you're just going to make poor decisions because you as the legislator have to think these things out. You put a lot more effort into making sure, and again, you're digging into the root causes and the root issues, and people are doing the surface issues, and they don't always see the full um, the full product. And the one thing that, and I like to get Tommy to answer this, because I thought I read something where he said he was going to communicate, but he wasn't going to do it on Facebook or on the internet or on all that stuff. I think that's a poor choice, because in 2024, Facebook, the internet, Twitter, all these different social media outlets is the way that people get news today.
It's the future.
It's the
You
future.
know,
It's here. It's the
right,
now. And so
right,
I think
and more information is put out by us two right here doing this podcast. A lot of people come back and say, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. We're doing exactly what this whole thing is intended to do. We're
the
passing out information.
the city of Cohoes could give each city council member one page on the city's website, right? Because there's endless
Yeah,
pages,
yeah,
and they can link it to their bio, and that legislator can go into that page and post all the things that he wants to post. So to
sure.
say that you're not going to use Facebook, social media, I think that's
They're
wrong.
already doing it anyway. If you
Yeah,
really
so
look
I'd like
at
to
it,
know what Tommy thought. Maybe I misread it. Maybe I didn't understand it. But if Adam Biggs had a Facebook page where he posted everything all the time, people wouldn't
I
be
think he
saying I can't
does.
get right. But he doesn't post it all, does he? He
I
doesn't
believe he
respond.
does. They do, but the problem is it's sporadic. Okay, it's
Right.
not something that everybody's aware of. It's really not followed that much, and that's not just him. That's all of them. All right.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
Tommy Dion's better communication is a fantastic campaign promise. I just hope he doesn't do it um, in some kind
well,
of
at
old
least
fashioned
right.
way. I
At
want him to
least I
do it up
got a
front.
letter from him, and I've yet to get a letter or anything from Biggs. The only thing I gotten from Biggs is seeing his signs around the neighborhood, and that's it.
Yeah,
But
and if you have a website, you can do 4 newsletters a year
yeah,
and post them on your site instead of having to worry about trying to mail them out and do all that stuff. Post them on your site. Send links. Get groups.
we
Build
got
a
to
fifth ward group,
right.
just like you have, right? Council member fifth ward group. Sign up. Get people. The city has the ability to send out messages to people based on wards. Have the city send out a thing saying that, hey, council member X, Y, and Z is got a new website. If you want to become part of the group, click on it, join the group. There's a million ways to communicate. Keeler doesn't communicate. He's an invert. Tommy's not. Um, he's a great guy. I wish him well, and see what happens in a few days. Right, early voting's I think starting. or
Yeah,
started.
yeah, up at about fire station or something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
outside of outside of the city.
Welcome to
But
Cohoes.
anyway, yeah. So look at anything else you got going?
No, I think we shared a lot of good information today. I sat outside; the birds are probably chirping, and you're going to hear the birds on the on the podcast. Maybe a little wind blowing, but
Hey,
no.
yeah, look at
Overall, I think that the city summertime is great because people make it great. I think the city's got a lot of work to do. Oh yeah, I have one more thing. So I kept driving up Columbia Street, asking, "What the hell are those bump outs from the
yeah.
sidewalk?"
I'm wondering, me
And
too.
I'm being told they're going to be flower beds and tree beds. And I got to be honest with you, I had a laugh because they cut off half the road for flower beds and tree beds. All you got to do is stop at the light and look right over to the little James Street Park where they put the little flower bed, and it's full of
Yeah,
weeds and dead flowers all the time. We can't
and
keep up with the weeds growing through the $1 million sidewalks. We can't cut the trees down on or the weeds down and the trees that need to be pruned down on 787. We don't do a good job of making sure that our green spaces look beautiful now. Can you imagine all the trees and flowers going up Columbia Street when they're dead and overgrown with weeds? I think it's a poor idea. I don't always blame the city for not getting things done. I blame the city that when they designed things and they know they don't
yeah.
have enough to get things done now, and they do it with a design that requires them to do a lot more work, and they don't have the manpower. Um,
Let me tell
I
you,
think it's
touch on
a dumb idea.
that you brought that up about that area, because I had a thought of it. Now, as you drive up alternate Route 7, between like Troy and Watervliet, that nice wooden
Yeah,
fence there. I
yeah,
was saying to myself, I've been looking at that damn ugly crumpled up wall,
yeah.
okay, on Columbia Street there, right at the end of for decades. And
Yeah.
when they were going to rebuild that, why didn't they just think about
Well,
facing that
I'll tell you
with
why.
one of those nice wooden walls or something?
Yeah, I'll
Other,
tell you
so
why I
you can have
think they did.
beautiful flower beds and we do nothing with the wall.
We That wall's bothered me every time I drove down to City Hall.
It's an
But
eyesore.
the problem becomes when
You know what
it's
they did? They put a pimple on the ass of progress.
now, Timmy. Listen, I think that's I don't think that's right. I'll tell you why. I'll disagree with you, and that don't happen too often. Um, we tried
You
to
got to,
fix that wall.
yeah,
We
okay.
wanted that wall fixed, and now
It's
there's an
not,
argument that the city don't own it, and therefore the city can't just go in and do what they want to the wall because it's not their property.
but
And
hide it though, right?
well, I don't know how you would hide it because you'd have
You
to
put
drill
up a
holes in your
wood.
sidewalk and
They
you'd be taking parts away. It's not
they
as
dug it
simple
all
as you
up.
think. No, they
Yeah,
didn't
it
touch the
is.
wall. They did
It
not
is.
touch the wall.
They dug it all on up, all the way up to the face of the wall. They could have put a nice wooden fence there along there, a good
I
quality
don't know
one.
whether they could or can't.
Yeah,
It's just like the
if they
wall
had the
that
money,
well,
just
it's
for
just like the wall when you go under High Street. Your brother used to scream about the wall all the time.
he
Well,
still
you know what?
does.
We can't fix the wall. We
Yeah,
tried to fix the wall. There's an argument that it's the railroads. It's an argument that the
yeah.
people that bought the house
You
own
see that
the wall. There's
you
so much.
see
Here's
it's
what
the end of
happens: you get
Manor Avenue
deadlocked.
too, right? It's the end of
Politics
Manor.
sucks because everything is held up with red tape and bullshit.
So
It's
what we're
not
gonna
ours. We
have
can't fix it.
We're gonna have nice flower beds and trees or whatever like
Yeah,
that,
I get
but we're
it.
gonna have a
Now,
shitty looking wall.
maybe it just was about, you know what delayed us? Spending a year and a half trying to find out who owned it. Because we weren't going to fix the
Yeah,
wall.
yeah,
We were going to do almost what you said. We were going to either put stone the wall with that,
yeah. I'd have put
that,
one of those high
or
quality wooden, if you had the money to
well,
put one of
again,
those,
if a
like,
wooden fence worked, but we didn't want it to look like the OK Corral barn. We wanted it to look really nice. But we would have hired an architect to make sure that whatever design we did was be worth the money, last the
yeah,
longest.
yeah.
We,
I
you know,
think the
you put
issue is
up,
there
I guarantee you put up
is
a wooden fence and there's going to be FU written across it in spray paint the next
that's
day.
probably true. That's probably
I,
true too.
we thought about all those things. Let's hope
Yeah,
when you go down the new bike path, it's not like that.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm being told that's what's going to be there. I hope the city can maintain it because they haven't been very successful at
They
maintaining
don't
all
do
the
it
other
at
stuff.
they don't
Well,
do
they
it
don't
at
do it
Canal Square.
right at the foot of James Street, in that little, bricked
Whatever
facade
that is.
there.
Yeah,
They fix it up once really nice, and then it's dead for the rest of the
Right
year.
at the
I
end of
see they
at
just put a watering station there, but now Jan Rougier's got to yell at me because she's always sending me messages asking me if I'm crying about weeds on the next show because she must think when I talk about
yeah.
weeds I'm crying. But hey, Jan, I hate weeds. Weeds
Hey
make cities
Jan,
look bad.
look
I
at
love
look
you.
at
I get it. I'll
look
turn.
at Sean's background there, Jan. Okay, he's got 15-foot weeds behind him.
No, they're not weeds. They're beautiful trees.
Beautiful tree, but we're calling them weeds today for
No, no,
Jan.
they're beautiful trees. And weeds that grow up through sidewalks send a message that a city doesn't care and it doesn't take care of itself. Weeds, garbage, all
So,
that bullshit. You got to
so we
maintain that
got
to
three.
make it
We
beautiful.
got three walls in the city, right? High Street. We've got the Columbia Street, and we got the one at Manor Avenue. We
Yeah.
got a really wall problem.
And
We'll
they
have to
really
get
all
that
need to be fixed. And the city,
somehow.
the city needs to look at. I'll take some heat for that too because we wanted to do it. Lawyers would say we can't just do it. We got to find out who owns it. You spend hours and hours
Yeah,
putting together letters, then you send them out. Government moves like a snail. You'll get a response 7 months later.
yeah.
Oh, we're not sure. You should check with this one. You should check with that one. There's no paperwork on it. It's just a freaking nightmare. And believe me, if you built that wall and made it beautiful, somebody who owned the house, if they own the wall, would say we're suing you
Somebody,
for touching our
you're
property.
probably right. Somebody will paint it.
Yeah,
It'll
it's just.
it'll have graffiti, especially nowadays. What's going on?
Hey
We'll
Timmy, I
find
don't
a
know if
way
you're
to
going to
wreck it.
Rock the Block tonight, but if you do, man, I'll see you down there. I didn't see you last time. I hope to see a whole bunch of friends. I think I'll go out and have a couple cold beers and enjoy myself in the downtown
Yeah,
that I love. And until then, Shaw Morris with Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit. My good friend Timmy with the Fifth Ward. And hey Tim, I'm out of here.
we'll call it a wrap. Podcast number 16. Okay,
I'll see you, my friend. Have a good day.
take care.
Take care.
Bye now.